When someone has already decided to leave you, already made up their mind, already chosen the door, what exactly are you fighting for when you beg them to stay? Think about that. You're not fighting to be wanted, because someone who wants you doesn't choose to leave. You're fighting to convince a person who's already decided against you to override their own choice for your sake. And even if you somehow win that fight, what have you actually won? Here is the truth that the Stoic mind understands, and that almost no one has the strength to live by. When someone chooses to leave, the most powerful thing you can do is not block the door, it's hold it open. Don't beg, don't cling, don't stand in the doorway pleading. Hold the door, let them walk through it with grace, and keep every ounce of your dignity intact. I know that sounds almost impossible when your heart is breaking, but by the end of this video, you'll understand why holding the door is not weakness or surrender. It's the single most self-respecting, powerful, and ultimately freeing thing a man can do when someone decides to go. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why you hold the door, what it reveals about your worth, and how this one act of grace changes everything about who you become. But before we begin, if someone has chosen to walk away from you, do this one thing for yourself right now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because that's how you become a Stoic soldier, a man who shows up for his own dignity every single day and never misses the lesson when he needs it most. And down in the comments, type 4 words and mean them. I hold the door. Say it before you've even finished watching, because the words you claim today become the strength you stand on tomorrow. Now, let's begin. Number 1. The instinct to block the door. Let's start with the instinct you're fighting, because you can't rise above something you don't first understand. When someone you love chooses to leave, your very first impulse is to block the door, to stand in the way, to do whatever it takes to stop them from walking out. Plead, promise, negotiate, grab on. And this isn't a flaw in you, it's wiring as old as the human species. For most of history, the loss of a close bond meant genuine danger, so your nervous system is built to treat someone leaving as a threat to your survival, flooding you with panic and an overwhelming urge to prevent the loss at any cost. That's why, in the moment, blocking the door doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like an emergency. Every instinct screams move, stop them, do something before it's too late. And in that panicked state, men do things they'd never do with a clear head. They beg. They make desperate promises. They abandon their dignity entirely, standing in the doorway pleading with someone to please not go. And here's the cruel irony. That very desperation, that frantic blocking of the door, almost always pushes the person further toward the exit, because nothing repels like the energy of someone clinging in fear. So the first thing you have to understand is that this instinct to block the door is not wisdom. It's an alarm. It tells you that you're feeling something intensely. It does not tell you that blocking the door is the right thing to do, or that it will even work. And this is where the Stoic mind separates itself from the crowd. The Stoics taught that between the impulse and the action, there is a space, and in that space lives all of your freedom. Most men never find that space because the alarm is so loud that they react before they think, lunging to block the door on pure instinct. But you're going to find it. When someone chooses to leave, and everything in you screams to block their way, you're going to recognize that scream for what it is, an ancient survival alarm firing in a situation that is not actually a threat to your survival. You will not die because someone chose to leave. You will hurt deeply, but you will not die, and you will not be destroyed. And the moment you can see the panic clearly instead of being swept away by it, you get to make a different choice than the one the alarm is demanding. You get to step back from the doorway, you get to stop blocking, and you get to do the thing almost no one has the strength to do. Not just let them pass, but hold the door open for them, with a composure that proves the alarm never owned you in the first place. Number 2. Why holding the door is power. So let's talk about what holding the door actually means, because the gesture is everything, and I want to make sure you understand it in the right spirit. To hold the door is to take the very doorway you instinctively wanted to block, and instead of standing in it pleading, you step aside, you open it wide, and with calm and grace, you let the person who chose to leave walk through it freely. It is the physical opposite of clinging, and I have to be clear about what this is and what it isn't, because it's easily misunderstood. Holding the door is not bitterness. It's not a cold, sarcastic, "Fine, get out then," thrown like a weapon. That's just anger wearing the mask of strength, and it reveals you're still hurting, still hooked, still reacting to her. True holding of the door has no venom in it at all. It's not good riddance. It's something quieter and far more powerful. A calm, dignified, almost gracious release. The act of a man so secure in himself that he can let someone go without resentment, without desperation, and without losing an ounce of his composure. It says, in effect, "You've made your choice, I respect it, I will not beg you to unmake it, and I wish you well as you go." And understand why this is the most powerful possible response, because it operates on a level that blocking the door never could. When you beg and cling, you communicate that your worth depends on this person, that you'll abandon your dignity to avoid losing them, that they hold all the power over your sense of self. But when you calmly hold the door, you communicate the exact opposite, that your worth is not on trial here, that your peace does not depend on whether they stay, that you are a complete man whose dignity remains perfectly intact whether someone chooses to walk beside you or walk away. There's a quiet strength in that gesture that nothing else can match, the strength of a man who refuses to compete for a place beside someone who's already chosen to leave it. The Stoics understood that true power was never about controlling others, but about the unshakable command of yourself. And there are few clearer demonstrations of that command than a man who can watch someone he loves walk away and respond not with desperate clinging, but with calm, dignified grace. So holding the door isn't passive and it isn't defeat. It's the most active demonstration of self-possession a man can give. It's you saying, with your composure alone, "My dignity is not for sale, not even to keep someone I love." And a man who can hold the door like that has a kind of power no amount of begging could ever buy. Number 3. Her choice was always hers. Now let's go to the philosophical heart of why you hold the door, because it rests on the single most important principle in all of Stoic thinking, and once it truly lands in you, it changes how you face every loss for the rest of your life. The Stoics divided all of existence into two categories, the things within your control and the things outside of it. Within your control, your own choices, your actions, your judgments, your character, the man you decide to be. Outside your control, nearly everything else, and, at the very top of that list, the free choices of other people. Her decision to leave belongs entirely, completely, to the second category. It was her choice, made by her free will, and her free will is the one territory in this universe you will never govern, no matter how much you wish you could. You cannot reach into another person's heart and force them to want to stay. You cannot make someone's love or loyalty appear by sheer effort or desperation. Their choice was always theirs, is theirs now, and remains forever beyond your control. And the suffering of trying to block the door is, in large part, the agony of a man straining with everything he has against a wall that was never going to move. So holding the door is, at its core, the practical embodiment of this principle. It's you finally aligning yourself with reality instead of fighting it. When you hold the door, you're acknowledging the simple, liberating truth that her choice is hers, not yours, and that respecting it is not weakness but wisdom. You're saying, "I cannot control whether you stay, and I will not waste my dignity trying to control the one thing that was never mine to control." Epictetus taught that freedom itself comes from this exact recognition, that the moment you stop demanding control over what isn't yours and accept what is genuinely beyond your power, you become free, while the man who keeps grasping at the uncontrollable remains forever a slave to it. So when she chooses to leave, you don't fight her free will, because fighting it is futile and beneath you. You honor the reality that her choice was always hers to make, and you respond by governing the only thing that was ever actually yours: your own conduct, your own dignity, your own response. You hold the door not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that her staying was never yours to command, and the only thing left to command, the only thing that was ever truly yours, is how you carry yourself as she goes. Number 4. What forcing someone to stay actually gets you. Now let's deal with the question lurking underneath all of this, the one your panicked mind keeps asking: but what if I could convince her to stay? What if I begged hard enough, promised enough, changed enough? Couldn't I get her to stay? And maybe sometimes you could. So let's actually look at what you'd win if you did, because it's far less than your desperation imagines. Picture it. You beg, you plead, you make enough promises, and she agrees to stay. Not because she chose you freely, but because you wore down her resolve, because you made leaving harder than staying, because your desperation guilted or pressured her into remaining. What do you actually have now? You have a person who wanted to leave, staying out of obligation, pity, or exhaustion. You have a partner who's physically present, but whose heart was already halfway out the door. You have, in the truest sense, a reluctant prisoner rather than a willing partner. Someone there not because they want to be, but because you convince them they should be. And a relationship like that is not a victory. It's a slow, quiet torture for both of you, a hollow shell of connection where one person is always wondering if the other really wants to be there, and the other is always quietly wishing they were somewhere else. This is the trap that desperation blinds men to. In their panic to avoid the pain of being left, they don't stop to ask whether the thing they're fighting so hard to keep is even worth having. A relationship is only valuable when both people genuinely choose to be in it. The moment you have to convince, pressure, or guilt someone into staying, you've already lost the only thing that made the relationship worth anything in the first place: their free, willing desire to be with you. The Stoics understood that we often desperately chase things that, examined clearly, we wouldn't actually want if we got them. That desire, ungoverned, makes us pursue our own misery. And a partner kept against their true wishes is exactly that, a thing you think you want in your panic that would only bring you suffering if you actually secured it. So when you hold the door instead of begging, you're not losing something good. You're refusing something hollow. You're recognizing that you don't want a partner who has to be convinced to stay, that you're worth being chosen freely and joyfully, not reluctantly and out of pressure. Holding the door is you saying, I will not beg for a presence that isn't freely given, because a presence that has to be begged for was never worth having. And that recognition doesn't just protect your dignity. It protects you from a future of being with someone who never truly wanted to be there at all. Number 5. Holding the door reveals your worth. Let's talk now about what holding the door reveals about you, because this single act communicates more about your worth than 1,000 words ever could. When a man holds the door for someone who's chosen to leave, calmly, with dignity, without begging, he's making a profound statement about how he sees his own value. He's saying, without saying a word, I know what I'm worth, and I will not chase, plead, or lower myself to keep someone who's decided they don't want to stay. That is the posture of a man who believes, deep in his bones, that he is worth being chosen freely, that he doesn't need to convince anyone of his value, because he's certain of it himself. And that certainty is magnetic and rare, precisely because most men don't have it. Most men, when faced with someone leaving, immediately betray their own sense of worth by begging, by groveling, by communicating through their desperation that they don't believe they're worth being freely chosen, so they'll pay any price for crumbs of someone's reluctant presence. The man who holds the door does the opposite. His composure itself declares his worth. And here's the crucial thing to understand. How you treat yourself in this moment teaches everyone, including yourself, how much you're worth. When you hold the door with dignity, you're reinforcing your own self-respect, proving to your own mind that you're a man who doesn't abandon himself even when it hurts, who doesn't trade his dignity for a presence that isn't freely given. And that self-respect, demonstrated in the hardest moment, becomes part of your foundation, part of who you are going forward. But when you beg and block the door, you teach yourself the opposite lesson, that your worth is conditional, that you'll grovel when threatened with loss, that your dignity is for sale to anyone who threatens to leave. The Stoics taught that the most important relationship a man has is the one with his own character, and that protecting your integrity and self-respect matters more than any external outcome. So when you hold the door, you're protecting that relationship with yourself. You're refusing to teach yourself that you're someone who begs. You're proving, in the moment it's hardest to prove, that you genuinely believe in your own worth, and that belief, demonstrated through your dignity, is one of the most attractive and powerful qualities a man can possess. Not because it's a performance to win anyone back, but because it's the real, unshakable self-respect of a man who knows he's worth being chosen and refuses to accept anything less than being chosen freely. Number 6. The freedom in letting go. Now I want to show you something that's almost impossible to see when you're in the grip of loss, but that changes everything once you grasp it. There is a profound freedom waiting in the act of letting go, a freedom that clinging can never give you. When you cling, when you block the door, when you make your peace depend on someone staying, you've chained your entire well-being to a thing you don't control. You've handed another person the power to determine whether you're okay, which means you live in constant anxiety, always watching, always afraid, always at the mercy of their choices. That's not love, that's a kind of bondage. But the moment you genuinely let go, the moment you hold the door and release your grip on the outcome, something extraordinary happens. The chain falls away. Your peace returns to your own hands, where it always belonged. You stop being a hostage to whether someone stays or goes, because you've reclaimed the truth that your okayness was never supposed to depend on them in the first place. Letting go isn't loss, it's the recovery of your own freedom. The Stoics taught a beautiful way of holding everything in life, with an open hand rather than a clenched fist. When you grip something tightly in a closed fist, you live in fear of losing it. And the moment it's taken, the loss feels like it's tearing part of you away. But when you hold things with an open hand, loving them fully while they're there, but never gripping them so desperately that their leaving destroys you, you get to enjoy them without the constant terror of loss, and you remain free and whole no matter what comes or goes. Everything external in life, the Stoics understood, is ultimately on loan, never truly ours to keep. And the wise man holds it accordingly, with gratitude but without desperate attachment. So holding the door is the open hand made real. It's you releasing your grip, not because you didn't value what you had, but because you refused to let your peace be held hostage by it. And the freedom this gives you is immense. The freedom of a man whose well-being lives inside himself, who can love without clinging, who can lose without being destroyed, who can watch someone walk away and remain perfectly, unshakably whole. That freedom is worth more than any relationship you could cling your way into keeping, and it's available the instant you stop gripping the door and simply, finally, let go. Number 7. The right one never needs the door. Held. Here's a truth that will reframe this entire situation, and once you really absorb it, the pain of holding the door starts to transform into something closer to clarity. The right person for you will never walk toward that door in the first place. Think about what it actually means that someone chose to leave. It means that, when it came down to it, staying with you was not what they wanted. And as much as that hurts, sit with what it reveals. This was not the person meant to build a lasting life with you, because the person meant to build a lasting life with you does not choose to walk away from it. The one who's truly right for you isn't looking for the exit, isn't weighing whether to stay, isn't someone you have to convince or beg or hold the door open for. They want to be there, freely and fully, choosing you the same way you'd choose them. So when someone chooses to leave, painful as it is, they're giving you a piece of information you absolutely needed, that they were not the one. And holding the door, rather than blocking it, is you accepting that information with grace instead of fighting against a truth that was only ever going to free you. This is why holding the door is ultimately an act of faith as much as dignity. Faith that what is truly meant for you will not need to be begged to stay, and that what leaves was clearing the way for what won't. The Stoics trusted in a kind of order to things, a sense that what happens, even the painful losses, often serves a purpose we can't yet see. That doors close so the right ones can open. And there's a deep practical wisdom in this, beyond any philosophy. Every moment you spend clinging to someone who wants to leave is a moment you're not available for someone who would choose to stay. By blocking the door, by pouring yourself into keeping someone who's already halfway gone, you keep yourself trapped in the wrong relationship and unavailable for the right one. But by holding the door and letting the wrong person go freely, you open yourself to the possibility of someone who will never want to leave. So when she chooses the door, you hold it open, not just out of dignity, but out of the quiet faith that her leaving is making room for someone who was always going to stay. The right one never needs the door held. And the fact that this person did is simply the universe showing you, as clearly as it could, that they were never the one you were waiting for. Number 8. You hold the door for your own sake. Now I have to make something absolutely clear, because it's the difference between this working and this becoming just another subtle trap. You do not hold the door as a strategy. You don't do it as a clever reverse psychology move, secretly hoping that your calm composure will shock her, make her realize what she's losing, and come running back through the door you so coolly held open. The moment that becomes your hidden motive, you're not really holding the door at all. You're still blocking it, just in a more sophisticated, disguised way, still oriented entirely around her reaction, still making your peace depend on whether your strategy works. And she'll feel it, because performed indifference always carries the faint scent of the neediness underneath it. So let's be clear about the real reason you hold the door. You do it for yourself. You do it because it's who you are, because it's the dignified thing to do, because your self-respect demands it, completely regardless of how she responds or whether she ever looks back. This is the heart of it. You hold the door for your own sake, to protect your dignity, to honor your self-respect, to avoid becoming a man who begs and clings and abandons himself. Whether she's moved by it, whether she comes back, whether she even notices, none of that is the point, and none of it can be allowed to be the point, or the whole thing collapses back into the desperate clinging you're trying to rise above. The Stoics taught that you should do the right thing because it's right, and release all attachment to the result, that virtue is its own reward, and a good act done for the sake of manipulating an outcome isn't really virtue at all. So you hold the door because that's the man you've decided to be, a man of dignity, a man who respects himself, a man who refuses to chase what's leaving, a man whose composure is real and not a performance. And here's the quiet paradox, the same one that runs through all of this. It's precisely when you genuinely stop caring whether holding the door brings her back, when you do it purely for your own dignity, fully detached from her response, that you become the most powerful, the most grounded, and yes, the most attractive version of yourself. But you can never do it for that reason. You do it because it's who you are, and the freedom of doing it for yourself, with no strings attached to her reaction, is the whole point. The door is held for you, by you, because of who you've chosen to become, and that is the only reason that ever actually works. Number 9. Who walks toward you next? Let me show you what becomes possible once you've held that door and let her walk through it, because there's a future waiting on the other side that you simply cannot access while you're still standing in the doorway, clinging to what's leaving. When you hold the door and genuinely let go, you create something you didn't have before: space, an opening, room. As long as you were pouring yourself into someone who'd chosen to leave, you were occupied, unavailable, your heart and your energy tied up in a relationship that was already ending. But the moment you release it, all of that comes back to you, your energy, your attention, your open heart, and a space appears in your life that something new can finally enter. That space her exit creates is not just an empty wound. It's room. Room for growth you couldn't pursue while you were clinging. Room for a deeper relationship with yourself, built in the solitude her leaving gives you. And eventually, room for the right person, someone who walks toward you freely and gladly, the way the one who left never could. But here's the most important part, the part that determines whether that space fills with something beautiful or just with more pain. How you spend the time after you hold the door. You don't fill the space by immediately scrambling to find a replacement, because that just hands your worth to a new person and restarts the whole cycle of needing someone to complete you. You fill it by becoming whole on your own first. You pour the energy you reclaimed into yourself, your purpose, your growth, your body, your mind, your character. You become a man so complete, so grounded, so genuinely at peace with himself that he no longer needs anyone to fill the space. And from that fullness, you'll eventually attract someone entirely different from the one who left. The Stoics understood that a man who masters himself and builds his own inner fullness draws different things to himself than a man operating from emptiness and need. So hold the door, let her go, and then turn toward yourself. Build the man who would never have to beg anyone to stay, and trust that when you've become that man, the right person, the one who walks toward you and never toward the exit, will find a man already whole, already at peace, already complete, who gets to choose them from fullness rather than cling to them from fear. That's who walks through the door toward you next. But first, always first, you become him. Number 10. The final word. So let's bring it all the way home. She chose to leave, and by now you understand that the most powerful thing you can do is not block that door, but hold it open with grace. You learned that the instinct to cling is just an ancient alarm, not wisdom, and that you can step back from it. You saw that holding the door isn't bitterness or defeat, but the quiet, devastating dignity of a man secure in his own worth. You accepted that her choice was always hers, never yours to control, and that fighting it was only ever the agony of straining against a wall that wouldn't move. You realized that forcing someone to stay wins you a prisoner, not a partner, that a presence begged for was never worth having. You discovered the freedom that lives in the open hand, and the clarity in knowing the right one never walks toward the exit. And above all, you understood that you hold the door for your own sake, for your dignity, your self-respect, the man you've chosen to become, never as a strategy to make her return. That's the whole of it. And here is the deepest truth to carry with you. A man who can hold the door for someone he loves and let them walk through it with grace has a kind of power that no one who clings will ever know, because he has proven, in the hardest moment a heart can face, that his peace, his worth, and his dignity were never in anyone's hands but his own. And if this video gave you even a fraction of the strength you came here looking for, then before you go, do these last few things for yourself. Like this video, so it can reach the next man standing in a doorway, fighting the urge to beg someone to stay. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you stand with us as a Stoic soldier, a man who shows up for his own dignity every single day and never misses the lesson when he needs it most. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. So the next time someone you love chooses to leave, don't block the door, don't beg, don't abandon yourself trying to make them stay. Step aside, hold it open, and let them walk through it with all the grace you can find, because the man who can hold the door is free in a way the man who clings will never be. And the door you hold open for the wrong person is the very same door the right one will one day walk through to find you. Stay grounded, stay unshakable, and I'll see you in the next one.